Okay, there it is. Okay, so it looks like we're all set to go. So, hello everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Those of you who have the time and the interest in watching our videos, we always appreciate it. And so this week, we're fortunate enough to have a guest on to discuss the situation in Ukraine with a specific respect to the presence of Iranian drones, the increased presence and the variety of Iranian drones and how they're being used and how they may or may not have altered the dynamic between the Ukrainian and pro-Ukrainian forces and Russian and pro-Russian forces and the dynamic of the conflict in general. And so just a brief introduction. This is the weTHINK.EU, UAV, UGV, and all other unmanned systems or uninhabited systems, emerging threats working group. And this is our weekly video where we discuss news or we bring in researchers, practitioners, manufacturers, hopefully policymakers, other people doing, strategy development, so we can get a variety of different ideas and thoughts and best practices and a greater perspective on research regarding everything related to the emerging threats and the constantly changing and developing emerging threats matrix and the landscape related to unmanned systems. And my name is Philip O'Keefe. I'm the research manager on this project. And I would like to introduce Evangelos Mantas from the University of, or please, yeah, go ahead, introduce yourself, sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evangelos Mantas. I am working with this working group as part of the red team for the exercise that we are preparing. I hold a bachelor from University of Piraeus and doing my master's in University of Oxford. I work for the bank sector, but my main security research revolves around drone security. I have a few publications in drone forensics and the way that drones shape the future in multiple conferences in the last few years. All those topics that you mentioned, Philip, are quite interesting because we are seeing a huge presence of drones in a really condensed area. And I'd like to tie, let's say, this increasing presence and increasing deniability of users with forensics and why forensics are important to understand who is behind the acts and who is responsible and who should be kept accountable at the end of the day.
Great. This would be interesting to see because I think we have a couple of interesting articles here that maybe can give us a point of reference to start from. And I think if we're able to see this screen, I'm not sure if it's if it's showing my screen now. So there's a foreign policy article, and the headline is "Iran is now at war with Ukraine. Tehran has taken its fight against the West to Europe." And it's specifically talking about, for the first time ever, that Iran is involved in a major war on the European continent. So that means that there are Iranian military advisors from the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, physically on the ground in occupied Ukraine and allegedly possibly in Belarus to help the Russian and pro-Russian forces in training and operation, sort of train, advise, and assist, and also, in the field of UAVs. And they're bringing over, exporting a number of their domestically produced UAVs. So, in a sense, they're taking a side in this conflict, and it seems to be that they're taking a significant role now in this conflict because of the role of their drones being used by Russia. It kind of seems to be shifting a little bit the dynamic. Would that be fair to say in your opinion as well? What are your thoughts?
So let's say that these are the 2 points of this article. The first one is the export of Iranian drones to Ukraine. Of course, they exported. There are allegations that they export to Russia. There have been numerous evidence to support those claims. The second point of is uh, as well the allegations again from an Israeli media that some Iranian militants have been shot dead or have been, let's say, incapacitated in this specific area. So, of course, exporting uh, military equipment is something that a state is really interested in because it supplies the world. They gain, let's say, know-how and, of course, money from those kind of activities. But sending advisors to the specific to this specific conflicts is a total different story, because this means that they are getting more and more involved in this area. For sure, they seem to have their own agenda. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent their people there. And an interesting thing is as well that Russia is trying to deny the use of those Iranian drones. Now, that specific drone falls under a category called loitering munitions, which is basically a missile that has the ability of a drone. They call them kamikaze drones, suicide drones. The UAV term for those kind of equipment is called loitering munition because this has exactly this kind of abilities. Um, it's interesting because the Iranian drone program started a few years back when a US drone, after I think it was um, a GPS or satellite failure, made it to drop off, and they sent scientists and the military to acquire this equipment from the US, and they reverse engineer it, and from there, the Iranian program took off. Now, the loitering munitions, as like the main export product of Iran, is a new one. Uh, we haven't seen the usage of them like a mass usage of loitering munitions in any other battlefield. We know that, of course, there are like uh, TB2s, uh, predators running around in different conflicts, because those two are, let's say, the most mainstream and the most renowned right now. But right now, we are seeing an extra type of drone being used on those attacks. So, uh, of course, someone could argue that they are much more efficient than just an artillery strike because it's much more guided, really easy to equip, apparently, because suddenly Russia, from a point that they had a few domestic created drones, right now they have the ability to use from Iran without having any published agreement for this kind of export control product, as we say in the Western world. So when we have an agreement to sell military equipment, the two countries have to come into an agreement like this is an export control product. So this may be the reason why Russia is denying those claims that these drones are from Iran, because they don't want to have tie. Iran,
I think I've even seen them also changing the name. In one of the articles here, they changed the Russians are referring to as Geran 2. So, I mean, maybe that's even also supporting this idea that they're trying to cover it up or deny the usage. So they're just calling them, these are Geran 2 UAVs, kind of implying that they're domestically produced or something like that.
so yeah, so right now in Ukraine, it's becoming a proxy war because NATO is not directly involved. They provide ammunition, they provide their support. Uh, is also putting even more players, if we can say that, into this proxy war. Now we're seeing Iran, which is in bad terms in terms of diplomacy, military, whatever. They're in bad terms with the U.S. government right now. They have been sanctioned, and they have been really trying to get a hold on their industry, but as well on their local um, status quo on the area. So this move may be something um, as an extra to establish themselves in the area and say that we hold an actual drone program, and this is something that our army can gain expertise. We are not directly involved in that, but our military can gain expertise from advising Russians how to equipment to use them and how to um, conduct their operations. But at the same time, they gain the know-how how to use it in a future conflict for their own country.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because I see that one of the key aspects of Hezbollah's involvement in Syria, and if we see, Hezbollah obviously has some its degree of autonomy, but it's like, originally was started by uh, the IRGC and Quds Force later on, and is heavily funded and supplied, logistically supported in any ways. But they went into Syria, and one of the big aspects of their involvement in Syria was not only being able to coordinate directly with the IRGC, but also later on to coordinate directly with the Russian military. So that means that the more advanced air systems and air to ground, ground to air coordination, and learning how to operate in those environments with those weapon systems was a big a key factor of them sending, I think it was 10 or 15,000 militants, according to a RUSI report in 2016, to Syria. And I've also been seeing a second point that these, I think it's a similar drone, the Shahid 136, appearing in different forms and different names in Yemen, in Libya, in Lebanon. I think they've been seized, in on routes as well, and they seem to be fairly easy to teach even non-state actors, violent non-state actors, how to use them and how to operate them, and even produce them
Exactly.
at some point. And
This is
so it
something.
seems like,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
this is something. This is something that is quite the trend. Actually, we are seeing state actors and non-state actors using the same or the equivalent of an Iranian UAV type. Now, as I said previously, it's quite important to understand how the forensic research can be used to tie the specific actors with the specific drone and this drone that can lead back to the Iranian government. Because suddenly uh, we are seeing multiple individuals or rogue groups that they have their hands on weapons, and those things are really dangerous, of course, but nobody is taking the claim for their acts. This is the biggest issue that I see right now in these conflicts. Everybody can fly a drone, but nobody is taking the responsibility for their acts. Of course,
Which seems to be a trend globally, like this kind of,
yes, yes,
and then that non-state actors are even getting access to like loitering munitions or military grade UAVs, even male UAVs in some cases, and getting not just access but the training, and to these are armed UAVs or the loitering munitions, as you said, they're effectively like a guided missile, right? Uh, and seeing them appearing in more and more conflict, I think we kind of talked about this in one of our earlier episodes and in one of our working groups, that this is actually becoming a serious threat, especially when you get this, I would say, this kind of combined arms coordination between a state and non-state actor in the context of urban warfare, like we're seeing in Ukraine, where this is a huge opportunity against an army that's the Ukrainian army, which is supported largely by NATO with a lot of NATO weapon systems. Like the value of having all of that in this getting all of that out of this conflict. It would be. I mean, I wonder what the ramifications would be for these. Like, is it just IRGC? Are Hezbollah militants there as well? That would be an interesting question to find out, because obviously these will have ramifications elsewhere, right?
yes. A great challenge right now is how do you take down this drone, because this will lead up if you can salvage the drone or it's gone for good. Now, as you said, this is a loitering munition. it flies, it detonates, and then maybe you will have some pieces of it that you can trace back and say, hey, we can be sure that this is the Iranian drone. But what happens for smaller ones, like DJI that we think used in Syria from Daesh, right? So we have to take into account that there has to be a fine line. Right now, there is no answer. This is something that the community is working on. There has to be a fine line between neutralization of the drone and having actionable intelligence on the actor behind, who is the owner actually. So we can use missiles, we can use guns, we can use bullets, we can use nets to bring drones down. But what kind of intelligence does that bring to us? Yes, safety is number one right now. You cannot have an unexploded bomb, right? You cannot simply risk the lives just to get some forensic value after that. But I'm sure that there have been multiple, let's say, misfires or drones that didn't even get detonate. Those could be really useful to understand who is behind those acts. Of course, we know it's Russia, but having equipment in your hands like this, you can properly investigate it. You can properly conduct the forensic investigation and see if there are some known tactic, techniques, procedure, as we say in the cybersecurity world, right? And this is the kind of thing that you need to attribute actors, attribute government, attribute whatever. That's what we need. We need more intelligence on the drones themselves. This kind of information can help bring those people to justice, and of course, be held accountable at some point.
It's I guess on that point, bringing to justice. I don't know. Maybe it's a loaded word in
Yes,
this
exactly.
context, which I'm about to present.
It's a word. Yeah.
But the third article that related to this story is that there it appears to be it's a report that alleges that the colonel and the general from Iran responsible for supplying these drones to Russia were killed in Iran. Now, the article doesn't really state too much about the details of how they were killed, if there's a target assassination or what exactly happened, other than that these two individuals who are members of the IRGC and security forces, uh, and somehow it was connected to the uprisings in Iran, have been they're no longer they're killed. So was it a targeting and killing? That would be very interesting to follow this story if it's an accurately reported story, to see how where did that come from, and how was that traced, and would this be the beginning of it? And how does it relate also to the continued uprisings in Iran?
Yeah, as you said, right now there is like no confirmed report of that. So this is just a speculation. Some interesting takeaways from that would be, why are those guys targeted if this specific weapon can be viewed, we live in a digital world. I can take a picture right now and it can be distributed throughout the world in like a few minutes using social media. So, and we are seeing pictures of the Gerans in Twitter. We see it all over the place. Sometimes we even see they haven't even changed the name on the wings. So leaving some traces behind, it's inevitable, right? And the digital world that we live in makes it even more easier to distribute this information. I don't know how or why these people got targeted, but if the reports are true, but someone could say that someone is covering their tracks, and at the same time, this may also fall in line with the Russian government narrative that we do not use Iranian-made equipment. And well, who is responsible for that? Well, nobody knows right now, because those apparently maybe those two people are dead. We can only speculate at this point, but this is, let's say, a little bit of food for thought for right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that point, we have to wrap it up because it looks like the meeting time is about to finish. But like it seems to be the story to be following. So like it looks like there's going to be a lot more developments coming out of this. And between the role of external drones in this conflict, the innovation that's occurring between both sides in commercial off-the-shelf UAVs, CUAS systems, it seems to be the center kind of the whole UAV world. So I think it'll be an endless source of intrigue and information for us to keep analyzing. And again, I just want to thank you for coming in. I know it was short notice. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much,
And
Philip.
on that note, thank you all. You're very welcome. And again, all of you, thank you for watching. And if you're interested in coming on and sharing about your research or discussing the current events, please contact us I'm philip.o'keefe@wethink.eu, or you can reach out to us on one of our WeThinks Twitters or any other social media. Okay, thanks very much. And I hope you all have a lovely weekend. And thanks again to you, Evangelos.
Bye, everyone.